I'm going to go through this, and I would like it if you could pause and check your notes if you need to, or pause to make sure that you understand it completely. Number 1, which of the following correctly describes the triangles? Select all that apply. Both triangles have a right angle. In order for it to have a right angle, it'll have this square right here. This one does not, which means this one cannot be right. Only one triangle has a right angle, is a right triangle. This one has the right triangle mark. This one does not. So this one would be correct. Only one of them does. It is the orange one that is a right triangle. Only one triangle has an acute angle. This one has an acute, this one has an acute. So this one cannot be correct. Both triangles have an obtuse angle. This one has a right angle, which means it cannot have an obtuse angle. So this one does not, because both do not. This one cannot be right either. Both triangles have at least 2 acute angles. So I'm looking here, this one's 90 degrees, which means this one and this one have to be acute. So there's one triangle. This one's acute, acute, acute. Both of them have at least 2 acute angles. Number 2, which statement is true? Trapezoids are parallelograms? No, because parallelograms mean a pair of parallel sides. A pair means 2. This one only has 1 pair of parallel sides. So this one is not true. A square is always a rectangle. If you remember, we go bottom to top on our shape sheet. And if you look, you can see that the square is on the bottom. So a square will be a rectangle. That's the one you want. A rectangle is not always a square, because a rectangle does not have 4 sides that are the same, that are congruent, which also means equal. So this one is not true. A rhombus is a trapezoid. Nope, we've already established that a rhombus is a parallelogram, but a trapezoid is not. And so that one is not true either. Just answer B is the one you are looking for. Number 3, select all the shapes that are parallelograms. Parallelograms just mean a pair of parallel sides. A parallelogram is also a quadrilateral. Because this is not a quadrilateral, it cannot be a parallelogram. This one, those are parallel sides, those are parallel sides. So because I have 1, 2 pairs of parallel sides, that a rectangle is a parallelogram. Here, none of these sides are parallel, so I know that one can't be right. Here I have parallel sides there, parallel sides there. So because I have a pair of parallel sides, that one can be a parallelogram. This one I have parallel sides here, but these are not parallel, which means it is not a parallelogram. Number 4, the necklace charm shown has 1 pair of parallel sides. This is parallel right there. These 2 will never cross. What type of quadrilateral is the charm? Well, I know that a quadrilateral that only has one pair of parallel sides is called a trapezoid. How do I know? Explain just what we talked about. There's only one pair of parallel sides. That is the explanation for why that has to be a trapezoid. Number 5, you're going to identify the figure below using as many names as possible. So we're going to start with the most specific, which is a square. I also know that a square is a rectangle and a rhombus. I also know that it is a parallelogram. And because it has 4 sides, it is also a quadrilateral. You could also go as far as say, I know it's also a polygon. So start in the most specific. I know it's a square because even though it's tilted sideways, if I turned it this way, I could see that it has 4 right angles and 4 congruent sides, which makes it the square. The rectangle, because it has 4 right angles, is because it's a rectangle. Because it has the 4 congruent sides, that's how I know it's a rhombus. And then there's 2 pairs of parallel sides, so it's a parallelogram, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, which makes it a quadrilateral. So here's my claim. A square is a rectangle because it has 4 right angles. The second claim is a square is a rhombus because it has 4 equal sides. Which claim is correct? Well, as we talked in the last one, both of them are correct. How do I know? Because a square is a rectangle due to the fact that it has the 4 right angles, and a rhombus because it has the 4 equal sides. So both claims are correct. So if you're looking at the rhombus and the square, I want to know, how are they the same? So the properties that is the same for both of them is they both have 4 equal sides. That is how they are the same. How they are different is the square has 4 right angles, or 4 equal angles, but the rhombus doesn't have right angles. So remember, when you're talking about how they're different, you need to mention both shapes. The square has 4 right angles, but the rhombus doesn't have any right angles. When you're talking about how they're the same, you can just tell me they both have, and then what is the same? 4 equal sides. 8, we're going to identify this figure using as many names as possible. So we're going to start with the most specific. There's only one pair of parallel sides, which means it is a trapezoid. And because it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, it's also a quadrilateral. Those are the only names you can name that shape. Okay? Same thing here. Start with the most specific name that it is. I know there's 2 pairs of parallel sides, so it is a parallelogram. I also know going up, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, which means it's a quadrilateral. Remember, when we name these shapes, we can only go up on our chart, we cannot go down. Number 10, what shape has 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel and all sides of equal length, but does not have 4 right angles? A square has 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel. A square has all sides equal length, but a square also has 4 right angles. The shape I'm looking for does not, so I know it's not a square. A rectangle has 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel, but a rectangle does not have all sides equal length, so it can't be a rectangle. A rhombus has 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel. A rhombus has all sides of equal length, and a rhombus does not have 4 right angles, so the shape is a rhombus. I know it's not a trapezoid because a trapezoid does not have 2 pairs of parallel sides. Using the Venn diagram, we're going to answer, are rhombuses always, sometimes, or never parallelograms? So my big blue box is my quadrilaterals. My green circle over here is trapezoids. My red circle is parallelograms. Inside of that, I have rectangles and rhombuses, and where those 2 overlap, I have a square. So I want to know if rhombuses are always, sometimes, or never parallelograms. Well, rhombuses are always inside of this red circle, which means I know that rhombuses are always parallelograms. How do I know? Just looking at the chart, I know because the circle for a rhombus is inside the parallelogram circle. That's how I know, because the entire rhombus circle is inside the parallelogram circle. So it's always. And then number 12, how would you describe triangle HJK in terms of its sides and angles? So first of all, I'm looking at the sides. This looks to me like I have 2 sides that are the same. Because I have 2 sides that are the same length, I'm going to have an isosceles triangle. Now looking here, I do not have the right angle mark here, which means this is not a right angle. So now I have to look, Does this look bigger or smaller than a right angle? So if I kind of tilt it and look at a different angle, I see that it looks bigger than a right angle. Because it's bigger than a right angle, my answer is going to be obtuse. So how I would describe this is an isosceles obtuse triangle. I listed it this way because it asked me in that order. It doesn't matter though. If you wrote down obtuse isosceles, that would work too. On the top, I want you to tell me how many you got right and how many you missed. So how many you have right out of 12. Each one just count as one. Well, it'd be 13 because this one has 2 parts. Okay, so out of 13. This is a point, this is a point for number 7. So how many you have right out of 13? Sorry. I guess you don't need to tell me that. Just tell me how many you have right out of 13. Okay? Then over here, I want you to tell me, am I confident on the test? You're gonna tell me, yes, I'm confident I'm going to get a 3. No, I'm not confident I'm going to get a 3. Or, and I'd like to work with you before taking the test. Okay? So before you can submit this, you have to tell me how many you get right out of 13. If you're confident, yes, I'm going to get a 3. No, not quite a 3 yet. Or, I'd like to work with you before taking the test. Just because you tell me you're not confident doesn't mean you have to work with me. It might just be I need to study a little more on my own. Okay? So finish those and turn them in.